Hello and welcome to how I create item pickups in Unity C#. This tutorial is supposed to be for creating a really simple, easy way to have items in a game. You can make them 2D or 3D, but for now we're going to do 2D items in a 3D game that you can click on and then it will become into your items, and then we're going to create a script that says which item slots are available in order, and then if it's booked, if it's taken, let's skip that one and go to the next. And first I'll show you what the final thing will be, and then we will create our own. Okay, when I hit play over here, I'll do full screen. You'll see I have these two 2D sprites. I've got a menu, a really basic menu. It's just an image square with 3 image squares, and each square gets a text slot. When I click on one, it'll go right into here, and then when I click on another one, it'll add, but then when I click on the dog, it'll go into the next spot. And I can add as many as I want. And if you want to be able to click these to take them out or to use them, you would just change them to buttons instead of images, but that's all it is. And I have here in the editor saying you selected the man, you add man to item 00, which is the item slot here. Then I select the dog, item 00 is used by man, add dog to item 01. So cool. We're going to create that in a new file. So I will go to Unity, Projects, New, Items, and I'm going to make it 3D. Very cool. I'm turning off maximize on play, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a game object, 3D object, quad for our ground, and hit F to go to it. Then change the rotation to 90 on the x-axis, and I will scale it up to be a little bigger. And then I'm going to take my main camera and I'm going to click on it, go to Game Object, Align with View, and there we go. And the first thing I want to do is have 2 sprites. I will go into the folder that I had my dog and my person sprite. Which would be item pickups, assets, sprites. Okay, so in here I only have 4 sprites. I have 2 sprites that are for the ground item, so those could be 3D objects or whatever, and then these 2 sprites are for the menu, so it knows what items to put. I'm going to take all of them, drag them in here, and we're going to create a folder called sprites. And all of these sprites, since this is a 3D game, they're set to be textures, but actually we want to change them to sprite 2D and UI and hit apply. And then for the transparent ones, they'll be transparent, and the other ones can be applied to user interface. I'll take the man item, drag them there. He's too big, so I'm going to scale him down. You hit R and then you drag in. Then I'll drag the dog over here. Turn him towards the camera. Bring him up. Hit R, scale him down. Okay, I've got my two characters. And I'm going to add, because we want to be able to click them, I'm going to add a box collider, but I'll wait to do that until I have my script on. Cool. So now we're going to create a folder, call it scripts. And we're going to right click again, create C#. And this will be item pickups. Just double click on it and Visual Studios will start opening up. I have mine loading on the other screen. Essentially, the coding process that we're going to go through here is our mouse is going to, or our script is going to check for when we click on the mouse. On the mouse, it's going to ask, it's going to shoot a ray and say, is there anything between where my mouse clicked in the 3D space to a first object? If we hit something that has a box collider, we're going to get a message that says, we hit, you know, human, we hit dog, or we hit nothing. And we're going to take that information to look at the name and say, what did we hit? And if it contains, if it's like something we can pick up, then we will put it in our items. If we have space, of course. So let me double click that again. And once we bring it into our items, then we run a new check that says, is this spot open? If it is, let's fill it up. And if it isn't open, or if it's a different object, we're going to go to the next spot. Okay, here we go. First things first, we're going to want to do some commenting. We're going to change this from void start to nothing. We're going to get rid of that. And we're going to change this from void update to private void update. And the first thing we want to check for is the mouse script. So after I comment end of update and end of script, we will get the mouse input. To read for the mouse input, we have an if, and it's input.getMouseButtonDown. And then there's three options you can have here in this parentheses. You can do a 0, and that's left click. You can do a 1, that's right click, and a 2 is middle click. We just want 0. So we have, if we press the mouse button, we're going to comment that first. Then we want to shoot array, but first end of. Then we want to shoot array, or do a raycast. So it's called raycast hit, and we'll just call it hit so that we can use that, a semicolon to end it. And then we will name the ray, and this is going to look from the camera to where our mouse clicked. And we have that camera main dot screen point to array. Input dot mouse position. And then we're going to do a check, and we're going to say if physics raycast ray comma out hit, so if we hit something, if ray, the ray that we have, and it hits something, then we do something. And I'm going to sum this all up with shoot a ray from the mouse position. And then if we hit something. And here's where we're just going to create a simple test before we add anything else that's checks for what we hit. So I'm going to do debug.log. You've selected the, and then I'm going to add whatever we hit .transform.name, actually .tag, and end that. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go back into our scene. And I would like to create an empty game object that represents our player scripts. So I will call it player controls. And I will drag item pickups right onto that. And for these to work, we have to add box colliders to them. Since this is a 3D game, we need just regular physics, box collider, and you'll see they get this. And when I hit play, I will get a message here when I click on a character. You selected untagged. That's the right message, but it's not the right tag that we want to have on them. I'm going to create a tag for dog and for human. And then on dog and human, I'm going to give them those tags, dog, human. And let's just double check it. You've selected untagged dog. Okay. Oh, I put human on the player. That would make sense. Cool. So we've got that working. Let's go ahead and create some of the user interface. Let's go to game object, UI, and image. And then you hit F to zoom into it. And I'm going to drag this image up to the top left. And I hit T so I can scale it. And I'd like this image to be slightly gray. I will call this items background. And then in items background, I will duplicate, or actually I'll just create a new image, game object, UI, image, and this will be for the items. So I will go to image. I will actually also add text because I'm going to want to put that in. So I'll put that in image. I'll name image item 00. and this will be number text. Change horizontal overflow and vertical overflow to overflow. Make it really big. Change it to 0 because currently we have 0 items. And then size this back down and change it back to, actually we can leave it at overflow, but we're going to want to bring it right here. I scale it in. And I noticed that because my images, my sprites are black, I don't want my number to be black because it won't be seen. I'm going to change it to blue. And this goes inside the background. Okay, there's one. Duplicate for another. Duplicate for another. And I'd like to change these from 0, 0, 1 to 0, 1 and 0, 2. Okay, cool. All of these should be untagged because we will supply tags to them when we click on our game object, and if it's empty. Because when we hit play and it goes to maximize on full screen, you see it becomes really small. We're going to go to our canvas and change that to constant pixel size to scale with size. And then you'll see we hit play. There we go. That is much better. Okay, back in our script. The next thing we're going to do is create a list of game objects. We need 2 lists, 2 public game objects. One is going to be for item slots and one's going to be for item sprites. Okay, back in Unity, we go to our player, and you'll see we have 2 spots here. We can drag in stuff. I'm going to lock this so it's easier to drag items in. And for the item slots, we have canvas, item 00, item 01, item 03. You can click one, shift, and click the last, and then drag it into the word item slots. It's important that this is in order because it's going to run down in that order to check. For item sprites, for possible sprites we have, that is just these 2, but you'll see that you can't actually drag them in. That's because they need to be prefabs first because I have them as game objects. So folder, prefabs, and then we will pull them into the game, and then into prefabs. And then I will delete them from here. And now we can drag them in. And this one doesn't matter the order because it's just going to run through and check if the name of what we clicked on equals one of these. Back in our scripts, we can now do a loop that checks for those. So I'm going to start by commenting this one as for loop item slots available and we will do for each. For each game object, item in item slots. Okay, and in each item or each loop, we're going to check if the name of what we clicked on is, or first we're going to check if the item is untagged or if it equals the same name. So if item, which is whichever item it's looking at right now, dot tag equals untagged, and then I'm going to do two backwards, like you hold shift and hit backward slash to do or. Item.tag equals whatever we hit, the name of that tag. So if the spot is empty or it's the same as whatever we hit, then we're going to do something about it. And the first thing we want to do is say that we're going to add it. And I will do that by saying debug.log add space plus hit.transform Cool. And if this works, you'll get that message that says add man to item 00 or add dog to item whatever. But they're both just going to say 00 because we haven't changed the tag of whatever we're adding it to. And so we're going to do another for loop. For each. Okay. And this one's going to be a check for every sprite that we could possibly have, or for each game object in our sprite list. We're going to check if the name contains whatever the tag of what we hit is. And you do that by saying if sprite, which is that specific item we're looking at, sprite.name contains hit.transform.tag. Okay, and here's where we're going to get the image and apply it. We'll say item.get component image.sprite. So we're saying where we're going to add the sprite, go ahead and grab that and set it equal to the sprite dot get component sprite renderer dot sprite. So the item spot that we're going to put the image, and then the game object we're going to grab the sprite, and this isn't going to read correctly until we add using Unity engine .ui. And I forgot parentheses there. Cool. And then after this loop that checks we're going to have a return, or actually no, because we have to do more below. So here we're going to add the tag to item slot, and that's pretty easy. We're just going to take the item spot that we're at, item.tag equals it.transform.tag. And then let's test that out. Hit clear, go to item 00, unlock this, hit play, and you'll see right now item 00 is untagged. When I click on the man, it says now human, you've selected the human, add human to item 00, and then it keeps going and adds them to each of them, but that is not what we want. Next we're going to add, so this didn't work yet, and we will figure that out in a moment, but next we're going to add the number to make sure that the numbers are working. So we're going to create variable for number of items. So we have a transform number text. We need to get child of num text, because this is just the number text is going to be equal to the child of the item that we were working with. So num text equals item.get transform item.transform.getChild. And we will say the first child. Then we want to create integer for item number. And we're going to say that that equals a conversion. We're going to convert with a capital C. Convert to int 32. Our text dot get component text. Let's see. Whoops. Dot text. And in order to use this convert, we need to use up here using systems, I believe, or just system, and then it works. Cool. Convert text to number. After that, we're going to add the number plus plus. So we will say item num plus plus, and then we are going to convert it back into text. And that is done by saying num text item num dot to string. And so the reason we're doing all this is because you could have a bunch of items and you don't want to have to create spots for each of them and say, well, if the item equals this name, then we're going to apply this specific icon. You just want to have a list of what items could be, a list of where the items can go, and a list of what items could be in it. And then when an item should be in it, it goes in it. And once we're done with all this, we're going to return, because if we found our item, we don't need to keep checking. Let's hit play. There we go. And the image still isn't working, so we can figure that out right now. Let's see. If sprite.name contains hit.transform.tag. So that is the problem, is that the name of our these is not the same as the tag names. And we will just have to change, dog is good, but we will have to change man to human. Okay, and then we will go to man, and we will add man, and now we should try it. Yes, that works. And last, we're just going to add the bit of code that says, it just says that it's full if it's not. So end of using tag, cool, and then we're going to put in else, so if there's no room, we'll debug.log item.name plus, and that should be lowercase, was used by item.tag. Cool. that is the whole thing. That's all of it. Let's just test that last bit, but we hit play. Let's start with the dog this time. Click on dog, and it says you've selected the dog. Add dog to item 00. We clicked on the person. It says you've selected the man. Item 00 was used by the dog. Add man to item 01. And when we keep clicking, it goes here. If you want it to be a one-time pickup, like that specific one gets rid of, you can pick up others. You can just add in script that says hit.gameObject, delete, or hit.transform, destroy, hit.transform. So that would totally be cool. But that's the tutorial. Thank you for watching, guys. I know it's kind of short, but it's just supposed to be quick and easy. Thank you for watching.